Hello everyone, I'm Vesper the Evening Star, and I'll be your host today here on Vesper's Fanfiction Time. Today we are going to be reading Chapter 7 of Tunnel Vision, written by ROMII BIRDIE. Now before we get started, I just want to say that I'm back everyone, and I'm very sorry for the super long delay. Life has been lifing more than ever, but hopefully I will be able to just keep on with all of the stories. And so without further ado, let's jump right in. How is she doing? It was a question from Toshinori directed at Recovery Girl, who simply regarded the retired hero with a withered expression across her face. Chiro glanced at the ajar door, revealing the small frame of Izuku Midoriya holding her face in her trembling hands as one of the lead investigators spoke quietly to her. The woman's recent overall stature and behavior was currently like a piece of fragile glass, slowly cracking and threatening to shatter. She could barely talk without bursting into floods of tears, while guilt ate away at Toshinori's heart. He himself had been told about the current investigation, courtesy of Neomasa. However, Toshinori had been barely able to hold himself together when they had informed him of the possibility that Izuku wouldn't be found in time. Alive. They'd eventually find a body, and that was apparently a positive thing? Toshinori had wanted to strangle the official in charge of talking with him. Thankfully, the detective had firmly marched the retired symbol of peace out of the office with short yet soft words. If his friend hadn't been hovering around, Toshinori would have possibly been in handcuffs for assaulting an officer. What do you think? Recovery Girl's long-awaited answer was as dry as Toshinori's throat currently felt. She shook her head with a heavy sigh, leaning forward on her cane. They're essentially telling us, the poor girl, that her son won't be coming home. They have no leads. The heroes have scattered and many bodies are still being found underneath the wreckage at Jaku. Imagine being told your child's body is most likely still under all that destruction. Your only child, may I add. She's heartbroken, Toshi. They can't just give up, Toshinori fumed, a sharp cry emitting from the back of his throat when Chiro's cane smacked him in the shin. He lowered his voice with an apologetic wince. Sorry, we have to do something. Toshinori, the deadliest man in existence, is currently walking the streets again thanks to Shimura's grandson. The same man, by the way, that wants you dead. She banged her cane against the ground for emphasis on her sharp words. Your successor is in their custody, and your other students are either maimed, under lockdown, or in major therapy. The next generation are traumatized by the events that happened in Jaku City. What do you suggest any of us do? Many pro-heroes have either left temporarily or gone into permanent retirement. We can't send the children back out there. You know this. Toshinori did. Deep down, he knew that he couldn't ask that of his students, of heroes in training. If they went up against All for One, they'd literally be offering up the kids' light, like lambs to a slaughterhouse. But he also couldn't abandon his boy. He opened his mouth to speak, only to close it when the door opened and Izuku Midoriya crept out, her hand still covering her face. Toshinori gingerly held out a hand towards her. Miss Midoriya. She recoiled from him as if he had struck her, bloodshot jade eyes honing on him and radiating with a mixture of grief, fury, and sorrow. The woman parted her trembling lips as if she wanted to say something, but pursed them together with a shake of her head. Toshinori. Recovery Girl's voice was hard and firm, like a mother scolding her disruptive child. The retired hero visibly shrunk away, keeping his head bowed as his shoulders and knees slumped on the spot. Please, Toshinori reached out. Let me help you, he thought. There's nothing to say, Izuku whispered, hugging herself as she quietly walked away with her head bowed. I need some time to think about what they just said. Yaki-san, please leave me alone. Her words were unintentionally cutting, like a knife jabbing his heart deeper with each syllable. Recovery Girl's hand snatched the sleeve of his shirt and pulled him back with a grimace. "If you didn't like what those officers told you, then how do you think she feels?" she asked pointedly, keeping her voice hushed. Toshinori's eyes have never left the woman as her image got smaller from walking further down the long corridor. "There's nothing we can do anymore." "No." Tears welled up in Toshinori's eyes. His tall stature shrunk down as he sunk to his knees with a choked wail, while his hands grasped the fabric of his blazer. Recovery Girl placed a steadying hand on the man's shoulders, bowing her own head. "I'm sorry, All Might. I truly am." Toshinori's head lowered as he hit the ground, his bare knuckles cracking under the power of his punch as his frail bones met the concrete ground. He bit down on his lip, feeling that familiar copper taste as he let out a barely coherent shudder. "I broke my promise, and I failed everybody." "It's down there." Those words would forever haunt him. One for All had screamed out in response, like a telepathic wave telling him to move, and Izuku had complied. He had lied to his closest friends and darted off into danger with the intent to lure Tomura Shigaraki's awakened form towards him and away from everybody in the vicinity. His childhood friend and fellow classmate, Katsuki Bakugo, had tailed him while wearing his trademark smirk. Together, they had jumped straight into the lion's den, and Shigaraki took the bait completely, immediately aiming for Izuku until his impending rescue, courtesy of Grand Turo. Shortly after narrowly avoiding death, Izuku had been spared from a painful demise by none other than Bakugo, who had pushed him away from the elongated, sharpened tendrils of one of Shigaraki's many quirks. Everything had become a blur from then. Izuku remembers the rush of fury emitting from his every being, and he charged Shigaraki with only one intent running through his mind. He wanted to hurt the villain in front of him, to make him pay for all the damage he had caused. The world had become a blur for Izuku soon after, and he had appeared back in the dreamscape, brushing along the ghostly walls of the void, and One for All and its previous welders. But this time, Shigaraki was also there, crouched low, while All for One seemed to be growing out of his spine like an uprooted evergreen, coiling his arms around the younger male's body, like thick vines ensnaring him. He remembered how much All for One's words stung upon hearing the villain rasp them out at his younger brother who opposed him, alongside Nana Shimura's spirit, the seventh holder of One for All, who was also Shigaraki's parental grandmother. "Your power has been wasted on someone who couldn't protect himself, let alone others. To think you gave this power to somebody so worthless. Ha! What an abysmal mistake!" Although the wielders had stood their ground against a century-old madman, the words clung to Izuku and ate away at his already crumbling self-worth. He had been utterly helpless, both in their realm and his world. "Worthless," Izuku murmured inside his dreamscape, his face dampening from tears as the void around him began to close in on him, a sudden wave of claustrophobia hitting him head-on as he shrunk into himself. Voices swirled in the air and around him, vanishing and reappearing in ghostly whispers, the feeling of phantom fingers brushing his trembling body as his tears hit the hollow ground that he stood on. An ice-cold grip suddenly clamped against Izuku's head, making the boy yelp as he felt a hum of power surge forward, like something was pulling at his very soul, trying to rip something important away with the utmost urgency. Slow water droplets hitting the surface, a hum of machinery, the groan of rusty old pipes springing to life, a smell like fresh blood, and voices, hushed but still hearable. There was a sharp pain coming from his injured leg, feeling like something was coiled around it tightly, yet it didn't hurt a bit. The hard, crushing weight that he had been feeling for days suddenly disappeared, and the dull ache following soon vanished, like a puff of smoke blending into the clean air. "That quirk will only do so much, sir. We'll have to start the surgery to correct it immediately." Izuku's heart sank, It was that doctor's awful voice again. Was this still a dream? Something that One for All was projecting? Or even perhaps a illusion? A hallucination? He didn't have a clue anymore. There wouldn't have to be any type of surgery if you had one iota of sense or control over that beast. There better not be permanent damage to his body, or else we will have severe problems. I understand, sir. He's got bruises and bandages covering him from head to toe. What have you been doing to him? I was attempting to take more samples of blood. The doctor conveniently left out the psychological torture he had put the team through. There was a shift in tone. So his DNA is working with our Nomu? Blood draws were proven to be successful. The newest collection of high ends have taken to the blood and show signs of brain activity. Unfortunately, Izuku kept fighting with us. Thus, why I have this. There was a quiet shuffle, like somebody straightening their shirt. The boy hurt you? The boy stabbed me, master. There was a pause. An unusual reaction. From my knowledge, he's never been one to hit out like that, ever. Something must have triggered such an extreme response. Perhaps it was because he found the high-end projects. It took a great while to calm him, you see. He went removed from the spot, so I had young Toya go in and give him a sedative. He, isn't very fond of me, you see. Oh, I wonder on earth why that could be. It was strange to hear such a dry and sarcastic response from Japan's most feared killer. We needed the blood, sir. You even said it yourself before the cameo incident. But that still doesn't explain the heavy amount of damage you've done to him, does it, Greggy? You must understand, it wasn't my intention to harm him, but he gave me little choice after trying to escape. Escape? You talk of him like he's some mere animal. Forgive me, sir. It was just a wrong choice of words on my part, the doctor responded smoothly, sounding the complete opposite of apologetic. Zuko's eyes shot open, coming back to the real world. The smell of fresh blood was stifling as it invaded his nostrils, making him screw up his face as if he were in pain. The feeling of disorientation smacked him full force as he tried to gather his current surroundings. Something was covering his eyes, and he was lying down on something soft. He could feel an almost human touch in his curls. The boy's heart abruptly leaped, hitting his chest violently as he tried to fight the urge to cry out in panic. His eyes were being covered by something with a pulse. With the amount of strength he had, Izuku wrenched his head free, only to freeze in horror when his eyes were uncovered. Blood was streaked across one of the walls, dripping down like candle wax as it soaked the floor tiles. His gaze was then pulled back as he took in the white curls and crimson eyes softly looking down on him. He had seen this face before. Within the void, the memories of One for All's wielders as they revealed the history of how their shared quirk birthed. The cruel hand clamped across First's face as his mouth hung open in a silent scream. Zuko's breath rapidly increased as Alfred's hand slowly left his head and cupped his freckled cheek with an expression of gentleness that should have looked and felt impossible for the man to even emote. To think you gave this power to somebody so worthless? What an abysmal mistake. Healed and completely healthy, Izuku's heart dropped down to the deepest depths of his stomach, his face paling in absolute terror of the face that had murdered so many people for over a century. All for One's expression softened a few extra fractions, while Izuku remained frozen in fear on his bed. Hello, Izuku. I've missed you. And that was all for Chapter 7 of Tunnel Vision. I'm really sorry. I feel like this recording is super, shoddy. Because my voice is just, awful today. But I'm I need to get something done, you know? And, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I did have to re-record some parts, so hopefully that blends in smoothly. I do have some good news, though. I will have a better studio to, record in. So hopefully, things will work out more. Well, not like a studio, but, a better room where it's more quieter and stuff. And you won't be able to hear like my computer click every time I have to like restart, hopefully. But yeah, I just wonder what's up with y'all. And yeah, just let me know how life's been. Does anyone watch Arcane? Oh, that was phenomenal. But yeah, I just needed to stop for now. But as always, folks, have a good day, good night, good evening, good morning. Have a good everything. And I will see you next time. Mwah. Bye.